Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we are looking at Alolan Exeggutor. Now, we did look at a GX a little while ago. I will pop a link to that one in the description. It looks a bit like this. We're going to talk about it in this video. It will be obvious in a moment. No, ladies and gentlemen, we've got a non-GX coming now. And there is quite a bit of potential here. Now, if we look at the basics, it's not actually looking very good at all. Dragon hits literally nothing for weakness in the standard format and nothing relevant in the expanded format, unless your expanded format tournaments are filled with this Rayquaza. Mine are not. It's also got a weakness to Fairy, which with Gardevoir running around everywhere and Xerneas seeing a fair bit of play, is about the worst weakness you could have. Add to that a retreat cost of 3, which is very high, although does open up Heavy Ball. It's not great. 130 HP is pretty good for a stage 1, however, so there's always that. It's not the worst thing ever. Now, being an Alolan Pokemon, it does have a free attack and a Zac for 0 energy, and it says that for each Execute on your bench, search your deck for an Alolan Exeggutor or Alolan Exeggutor GX, and evolve the Execute. Shuffle your deck. Quick side note, there is no Alolan Execute, so you are evolving from regular Execute, as opposed to something like Alolan Ninetales, which can only evolve from Alolan Vulpix. And shout out to David Hockman himself, Rappelman TCG, who is a lovely man who has provided the translation for this particular card. Now, this is just consistency, ladies and gentlemen. It kind of feels a little bit like Froggedier's water duplicates, although this won't just get the Pokemon out, it will only evolve the Execute on your bench, so you can get a turn 2 Alolan Exeggutor, but unless you've got the Execute on your bench, there's nothing much doing. And this is a little bit strange, because maybe you get the turn 2 Alolan Exeggutor, but then again, maybe you also evolve the others on your bench at the same time anyway, so you don't need to use this attack. But what it really does is it allows you to focus on searching out basics and using this attack to search out all of your evolution. So, for instance, Nest Ball is not an amazing card in most decks. So you can use Nest Ball to go ahead and search out your Execute, pop them on the bench, because it doesn't matter, you're not going to be needing to search out your Alolan Exeggutor, because you're going to be grabbing them with the attack. Although, as always, using Nest Ball will not allow you to grab Tapu Lele, at least not in a way that allows you to use the ability. Now, this is a kind of card that always makes me want to play Wally, and I know I mention Wally probably slightly too often in my videos, but I love the idea of getting a turn 1 Alolan Exeggutor. And, of course, it's for 0 energy, so if you say, need to use an energy to retreat a Tapu Lele with which you started, that's fine. You don't need to pop an energy on Alolan Exeggutor, and then you can just go ahead and evolve all of your benched Execute. And Wally works in some Greninja decks. Problem is, of course, that this will only work for Alolan Exeggutor if you've already got your Execute on the bench. And the problem is that without something like a Shaman, it's going to be difficult to draw enough cards turn 1 without using a supporter, because Wally will be your supporter for the turn, to get all your Execute out. It's far more likely that what you'll end up doing is playing a Bridget on turn 1, getting free Execute out, and then the following turn you only need to worry about evolving one of them. You can then use the rest of your search cards to search for something like a Tapu Lele, an Oranguru, etc., knowing that you'll be able to search and evolve the Pokemon on the bench. And what I really like about this is, given that it's a free attack, you can start building up energy on your benched Pokemon here, and even something like a Gardevoir will need free energy to take out an Alolan Exeggutor, because it's essentially doing 60 damage per energy, which means 2 energy will not be enough. Yeah, it's a bad weakness, but at least you're forcing them to have free energy on them to get the KO, which is a little bit nicer for you. So that's the first attack, and it's fine, and it's good for consistency, and it helps you, and you won't even need to use it every game. But it's nice that you've got it there if you need it, but this is going to be worthless without the attack. 1 grass, 2 colorless energy, flip a coin for every grass energy attached to Alolan Exeggutor, 80 damage per heads. Now you can use double colorless energy to pay the attack cost here, but if you put a grass double colorless, it's flip a coin, if heads you do 80. That's a terrible attack. Whereas free grass energy, flip a coin for each of them, 80 times the number of heads, potentially doing 240. That, ladies and gentlemen, that is an exceptionally good attack. So the question then becomes, how can we get extra energy on there? Well, there's a few options. Some are better than others. You could use Max Elixir onto your benched Execute. That could work, although again seems a little clunky. You could use something like Rayquaza from Guardians Rising, but then you really want to be attacking with Alolan Execute to evolve. You don't also want to be attacking with Rayquaza to get the energy onto the field. You could use Vikavolt, but Vikavolt searches 1 grass, 1 lightning, and it's only the grass here that's relevant. You could, and I think this is way too clunky, but you could play something like Vikavolt with Alolan Exeggutor and Tapu Koko, putting the grass on Alolan Exeggutor, the lightning on Tapu Koko, but that's a little bit clunky. We've got 2 options here that are really good. First one of them is the Venusaur from Shining Legends. That means that all of your grass energy counts double. So even if you've got 2 or 3 Venusaur out, each grass only counts as 2. Then you put 2 grass energy onto an Alolan Exeggutor, and then all of a sudden you're flipping 4 coins and 80 times the number of heads, which will be averaging 160. 160 for 2 energy is great. Potentially doing 240 or 320 for 2 energy is amazing. Having said that, you will need a Venusaur on the bench and an Alolan Exeggutor with 2 energy in the active. That's a little bit of an issue. The other great option we've got here is Counter Energy. Now, Counter Energy is a new energy which is going to be coming out in Crimson Invasion, and Counter Energy basically says that if it's attached to a non-EX, non-GX, and you're behind on prizes, it counts as any 2 energy that you like. So you could count it here as 2 grass energy, and that would pay 2 of the free cost. Now, what's important is that when counter energy is attached to a Alolan Exeggutor, it counts as grass energy, so putting 1 counter energy on there would count as 2 grass energy and allow you to flip 2 coins. What is equally important here is that Venusaur only acts for basic grass energy. So you couldn't put a counter energy on Alolan Exeggutor and count it as 4 grass energy. That wouldn't work. Venusaur works, counter energy works, but they do not interact and work together. And of course, any attack involving coin flips, I would be remiss if I did not mention Fliptini. This is the Victini from Guardians Rising that allows you to reflip the coins you used for an attack if they don't come up the way you want. Or if they do come up the way you want, but I don't know why you'd reflip in those circumstances. So this means that you've actually got a second chance to hit those numbers that you like. And this is a pretty good attack, to be perfectly honest. Slightly more expensive than I might like, and certainly if this was for 2 grass energy, I'd like it an awful lot more. But there's a lot to like about this particular attack. If you can accelerate grass energy fast enough, you'll be flipping a whole bunch of coins, you'll be doing a whole bunch of damage, and of course, let's not forget we've got the free attack here that allows you to set up more quickly. So in theory, turn 2, you get 4 Alolan Exeggutor out. Now one of them will probably be KO'd, but only 1. Use Bridget turn 1, evolve 1 manually, free with the attack turn 2, and I cannot stress how great it is that you can then use something like an Ultra Ball for an Oranguru or a Tapu Lele, because you don't have to waste all of your search cards finding Pokemon that you're going to get with your attack anyway. And then from turn 3 onwards, you're flipping a whole bunch of coins. But getting the energy here is going to be a problem. This is an attack which you need a minimum free energy to do. Counter energy will help. Venusaur will help. But I fear it's still a little bit too slow, and the weakness here is really bad. Now, of course, let's ignore the second attack on Alolan Exeggutor for a minute. You've still got that first attack which helps you set up, and then you can evolve into Alolan Exeggutor GX. And there's some decent attacks here. The first one does 20 damage for each energy attached to Alolan Exeggutor, to any of your opponent's Pokemon. So let's say you got 2 Grass Energy on an Alolan Exeggutor GX with a Venusaur in play. You would then essentially have 4 energy on there and do 80 damage anywhere you like. You can hit your opponent's bench. That's pretty cool. Second attack, 120 in Confusion for 4 energy isn't that great. But 4 energy, 180, and move it around your field, this I like a lot. You get a Venusaur out, 2 energy on Alolan Exeggutor. You then do 180, 210 with a Choice Band, which is enough to KO something like a Golisopod, Espeon, etc. You then take those energy, pop them onto your non-GX Alolan Exeggutor, and your opponent can KO the GX. But that's not where your energy is. That's not what's threatening their side of the field. I quite like this. I don't know if it's going to be a great deck. It strikes me more as a rogue deck. I think you really do need the Stage 2 Venusaur here, as well as a mixture of GX and non-GX Alolan Exeggutor. And I think Counter Energy is great for the non-GX, although of course you can't use it on the GX. But I still think it's a little bit clunky. The fact that you need Venusaur and 2 energy to do any of your attacks really means that Venusaur alone isn't enough. You might need something like a Max Elixir, because again, even with Venusaur out, 1 energy attachment won't do it. Even with Counter Energy, 1 energy attachment won't do it. But the thing to remember here is that this is not just for this Alolan Exeggutor and this Alolan Exeggutor GX. You could always play one of these new ones that accelerates your evolutions, and then maybe a new one comes out in the future, you play 3 of that, and off you go. And remember, Alolan Exeggutor and Alolan Exeggutor GX have different names, so you can play more than 4 in combination. You can play up to 4 of each. So even if you don't like this deck I'm showing you right now, any Alolan Exeggutor that's released before this one rotates and is no longer legal for tournament play can take advantage of it, and that's why I'm going to give this a good solid between 3 and 4 Wassies. We don't give half Wassies, that would be barbaric. I think we've already got a fun rogue deck which is worth looking into, but the added potential here is what makes me really like it. But as always, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this card. Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. That's where the live action happens. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods, and a new one went up yesterday, then check it out at patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.